A little bit of a late start.
We really did.
11 minutes after 10. We had hoped to be on the road 9:30, and I forgot to tune the truck for towing, so we had to do that. But a little cloudy. Outside air temp is 62 degrees. Not a bad day to drive. We're heading for Erie, Pennsylvania today to visit friends there. Show you a few scenes along the way, but we won't do a whole lot of video with our friends. We stayed at Sarah's campground, which is right to the entrance of Presque Isle. So we took a walk out to the beach the one day and looked around a little bit. Here you see Vicky walking back to the coach, and we can view the coach through the trees at Sarah's campground, and we liked it there. It was pretty nice. Well, overnight, the winds came in real strong. Woke Vicky and I up about 3 o'clock in the morning. The camper rocking in the winds here. The wind was coming right across Lake Erie and right into our campground. But we got up and we headed west towards Springfield, Ohio, and went through a lot of rain all day long. But by the time we got there, got settled in the evening, the sky turned. The worst of the weather was past us, and we went to Walmart, stocked up on supplies, and you see us here coming back. We're passing the start of the campground / fishing area here on the right. Wasn't a bad place to stay, but there was an awful lot of people who made this their vacation home, and it was just a little bit run down. And but we had very quiet evenings. Good time to stay, good place to stay for the 2 nights we were there. And as we drive into the campground, you'll see our camper here at the end. Good morning, everyone. Walking into the United States Air Force Museum Saturday morning about 10:30 or so. Beautiful blue skies, a little crisp, but excited to see this. This museum is broke up into 5 different buildings, and the first building we came to was from the beginning of flight through the end of World War I. And I'm not going to try to narrate it all. I will sit back and let you enjoy the views of the different aircraft. This last scene in the World War I slash early aviation is of a pilot standing by his aircraft waiting to jump in it at a moment's notice. From there we went to the World War II era building, and we see here a P-40, which was flown by a General Chenault in the Flying Tigers, operating out of China before the United States became involved in World War II. Next is the B-25 Mitchell, which Jimmy Doolittle flew off carriers earlier in 1942 to bomb Tokyo and send a message to Japan that the United States is coming. Another airplane played a mighty role was the B-24 Liberator, flew throughout the different Pacific and the European theater. Then we come across a B-17, the Flying Fortress, and this is a picture of the Memphis Belle, which was the first B-17 to complete 25 successful missions and return to the United States. The whole airplane and crew did, and flew around the United States, putting on air shows and fundraising for the war. And here you get a chance to look up inside the bomb bays of the B-17, and take a look at what it looked like. Here was where the belly turret gunner would be, and he was in a fetal position in there. Not a very envious place to be. And you see the 6 bombs loaded in the bomb bay, as it was during World War II. Pictured next here is the 88mm flak cannon, which resulted in the death of many of the United States Army Air Corps airmen, as well as downing of many a B-17. One of the Axis airplanes pictured was a F-109 Focke-Wulf. Was a very formidable fighter during World War II for the German Axis powers. This is pictured here is a P-38 Lightning, one of the most feared fighters during World War II. Dick Bong had 40 kills using this aircraft, and another man had 38. It was very much feared by the Japanese. This aircraft is the B-29 Super Fortress, which flew many missions over Japan, and it was the first fully pressurized bomber that flew, and it was the one pictured here that dropped the atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. This is a B-26 Marauder, another very effective medium-range bomber used during World War II by the United States Army Air Corps. Here is a B-52 Stratofortress, one of the most widely used bombers and still on active service. Used in Vietnam and both Gulf Wars, and is still in service today. And here we're inside the bomb bays of a B-52, and it is quite an aircraft. One very versatile helicopter was a Huey UH-1 Iroquois, used extensively in Vietnam to deliver and take soldiers off the battlefield. An F-105 Thunder Chief pictured here flew many a sortie over Hanoi during the Vietnam conflict. And also the next pictured aircraft is an F-4 Phantom that also flew many a combat sortie over Hanoi and was quite effective at doing it. Pictured here is an F-111 Aardvark, which was a controversial aircraft during Vietnam because it did have some issues flying. Pictured here are aircraft we can be thankful that they never flew in combat. They were intercontinental ballistic missiles, which were held in silos across North America, and were armed with, one of the armaments was a W-53 thermonuclear bomb, and it's pictured here. So again, we can be thankful that these aircraft never flew in combat and are now decommissioned. We walked through several aircraft which flew the President around the world, depending on who it was, starting with Harry Truman and ending up with John F. Kennedy. But my video was that bad inside the aircraft, I'm not going to show it to you. But here we're walking into the 707 that flew John Kennedy around the world and would have flown him to and from Texas on that fateful day in 1963. But you can see that it was not a wide-body airplane like we're used to flying in today. It was narrow and cramped. And it is cramped to walk through them because they have plexiglass walls up, keeping us spectators from doing damage to the aircraft. And it was funny, they had signs up that says, "Please don't touch the aircraft." It was almost impossible to walk through the thing without touching the aircraft. The last aircraft we walked through and toured that day was a C-141 Starlifter. And this aircraft has significance to Vicki because three times she flew across the Atlantic Ocean in a C-141. And so we walked through it, and it brought back a lot of memories for her of what it was like to fly across in this huge aircraft, which was used and is still being used now by the United States Air Force to fly supplies around the world. Hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and also give me a thumbs up. See you on the next video as we head west.